Couple of former regional standouts on the hunt for their next win. We have the 2021 LFA featherweight champ Bruno "Tiger" Souza taking on Fight Ready MMA's Luis Saldaña. And for the Tiger, he came in on about a week's notice taking on Melsik Baghdasaryan, one of the best pure kickboxers you're going to find in MMA. And if you like Melsik Baghdasaryan, you're really going to like Viacheslav Borshchev, who's also on this card. Slava Claus, really exciting fight that he has against the bone crusher Marc. But to get back to the fight that we have, I mean, for Bruno Souza, a week's notice, he was a plus 310 underdog. And if you look at that fight, unanimous decision win for Baghdasaryan, all three judges scoring at 29-28, giving the third round to Bruno Souza. You like the way that he rallied in that fight. And for Souza, primarily known as more of a decision fighter. You look at it, he's 10-2 overall, 7 of those wins by decision. And then you really equate in his fighting style. And this is a kid that got involved very, very young in karate. At the age of 4, he picks up the martial art. At the age of 12, he starts training at, I don't know, some random karate gym, you know, the Machida Academy with Lyoto and Shinzo and company. And then he ultimately makes the move to the States just a few years ago. Really rounds it out. He trains at California Mixed Martial Arts. Victor Henry, one of the guys at that gym. You saw him with a huge win over Hani Barcelos in his debut. He was around a plus 310 underdog too. And if you consider it as well, Weber Almeida, a guy that you gotta watch out for over with Bellator. I wish we get to see him fight more often. But for Bruno Souza, he kind of has a bit of a point karate type of fight to him. He really does like to stand on the outside, stands really tall, hands can kind of get a little low, and really starts to fight with his legs. And it's not something that we see all that often. And you might see some comparisons to Wonderboy Thompson, but for Bruno,
I think there's a middleweight that we could compare much better to him named Krzysztof Jotko, but continue.
When you look at Bruno Souza, with Wonderboy, he can switch stances. He can throw lead leg kicks from both stances. From Bruno, he likes to more so reset when he goes for his strikes, but out of the reset, there's really a big important key. A, there's always the cardio. So on the reset, he's always going to be fresh. But B, he loves the counter shots, and he is a really, really tricky fighter when you start to advance in on him. And the big thing with Bruno Souza, when you consider him and kind of compare him with Luis Saldaña, Saldaña is a finisher. He really, really is to the nth degree. Only one fight that he's won has gone to decision. That was his UFC debut against Jordan Griffin. And in that fight, a chugga choo choo. He started to lose steam as that one went on. And then he takes on Austin Lingo's last time out, loses a decision. And the same thing happened. He got knocked down in the third round of that fight. So for Luis Saldaña, he is not necessarily a one-hitter quitter. And he's great with his jiu-jitsu, with his striking. But again, only 2 fights that he's ever won gone to the third round. The one where he looked like a phoenix rising against Prince Murdoch on Dana White's Contender Series to book his ticket to the UFC. The other in 2012 against a young man named Zach Smith. First name spelled with 2 Ks, like he's Zach Wild, riffing on guitar. So Matt, when I look at this fight, really a contrast of styles, so to speak. Saldaña can definitely strike. He is definitely game, that big front kick that he had against Murdoch. But again, a little bit more well-rounded when it comes to his ground game.
I still don't know if I'd say contrast of styles, though, because both guys are going to choose to strike in this fight, or at least I believe so, because with Souza, he does have that oddly unique style of, I'm a great striker, I'm just not the most powerful striker, and it is a very unique skill, because not a lot of fighters fight like that, and I don't think he has bad punching power by any stretch of the imagination. He just really needs to lead you into his combinations and set a lot of traps on the feet, which against someone like Saldaña is going to be very difficult to do, because he himself is such a high-level striker. It'd be a little bit different if Bruno Souza was fighting, just pick any wrestler, really. Someone who isn't a natural striker, who will at least question themselves on the feet a little bit more, who might not know when to enter and when to get out of the pocket, whereas
like a return from BKFC Chad Mendes. There's the fight to make.
Chad Mendes would destroy both these guys in the same night. Luis Saldaña, though, is someone who will go to the leg quite often, especially with his kicks. And I think that's going to be a really big point in this fight, because if Saldaña can slow down the movement of Bruno Souza, it's going to make him that much more available to hit. And like you had said earlier, if these guys do start to find themselves into those 50-50 exchanges to where Souza isn't the one being elusive and forcing Saldaña to miss and overextend, that's when Souza's going to be a sitting duck as these combinations start to fly. So I really do think early on that footwork is going to be key, but For Souza, I actually think the clinch is going to be oddly important in this fight because he's going to need a way on the inside to negate some of the attacks like the knees and the elbows of Saldaña. So I actually think Bruno Souza is going to have the game plan of, I'm either all the way out, like we see Wonder Boy when he fought Vicente Luque, a lot of counters, not really being the one engaging in the pocket, or all the way in. So the second they do start to engage in that kickboxing boxing range, I could see Souza close that distance, try to clinch up, just so he doesn't give Saldaña any extension on his punches. Because at the kickboxing range, I think Souza can have success. He's got great movement. He himself has great kicks. But I do think that the second this takes a half step closer and it does become more of a Muay Thai, more of a boxing fight, that's when it does heavily favor Saldaña, mainly because of his finishing potential.
Well, that's it. I look at this fight, and this really is a Zed and Marin Morris, why don't you just meet me in the middle type of fight? Because again, both guys, long-range weapons straight up the middle. It's not like they're throwing big looping hooks and trying to close distance like Danaa who's on this card. The other thing that we can consider, again, we know how good Bruno Souza is, 2015 world champion in karate. For Luis Saldaña, he's a 2009 Iowa Gold Gloves champ, so he does have that in his back pocket. A little bit of a reach, a little bit of a snag. But when we do look at the odds for this fight, it actually opened at par. Saldaña slightly favored right now at a -120. Bruno Souza somewhere in around a -105. And a little bit of inside the curtain, inside baseball, behind the fourth wall. I didn't look at any of the odds for this card before I wrote this one down before this fight. So again, that was a big surprise to me, to be completely honest, because if we're looking at the Tapology votes, we keep those a surprise every time. I'm going to say over under 70% Saldaña in this one.
I think they'll be closer to 50-50.
Thinking they're going to be closer to 50-50 right there.
Well, kind of right.
879 total votes. 74% Souza, 75% by decision for the 26% that have Saldaña, 77% by decision. And again, for Souza, you look at it, the 5-on-in wins over Kemuel Kirk by split decision. Super close fight. Knockout win over Guilherme Santos, a split decision win over Elijah Johns, and a win over Javier Garcia by decision to win that LFA belt. That one was back about, 6 months ago? So it hasn't been that long. The fight against Melzik about 4 months ago. For Saldaña, good level of competition outside of the UFC, primarily was losing to the better fighters that he was taking on. But Matt, when it comes to this one, we set it up a couple of different ways for both these guys. Who do you have winning this one?
So, this is the big key for both guys, and it's cardio. Souza has very good cardio, and Saldaña, if he does have a big Achilles heel, I would say it is his cardio. Maybe wrestling defense when he fights upper echelon guys, but we don't really need to worry about that in this fight. This is the problem. If you're fighting someone who has poor cardio, you should be the one pressuring them, because when I'm pressuring you, it's going to force you to be active too. And when you're active, and if you have a bad gas tank, it's going to force you to burn that gas very fast. Souza's not really an aggressive fighter though, so I think he's going to let Saldaña fight at a pace that's comfortable to Saldaña. So unless Luis is just finding himself missing a lot in the middle of the cage, I think he's going to be able to fight at his own pace, which hopefully won't tire him out. And if he is able to just keep a more sustained pace throughout 15 minutes, I think this is a great fight for him to win, because again, it's only going to be contested on the feet, or primarily will be, and if anyone takes it to the ground, it's probably going to be Saldaña actually. So I do think with him being the more well-rounded guy and the more powerful guy, and hopefully, or I think he will be allowed to fight at his own pace, I like Saldaña in this matchup.
Well, the craziest part about this one, for Saldaña, he is 1-2 in the UFC, has that wild win on Contender Series. The one win that he has over Jordan Griffin, you go back and watch it and you go, Luis Saldaña won that fight? Like, are you actually kidding me? MMA decisions, 2 had it 29-28 Saldaña, 16 had it 29-28 Griffin, and the UFC went, see you later, Jordan Griffin. Don't care how close that fight was, but really it was.
He had lost like 4 in a row.
Round 1 and round 3, Griffin was able to win. Round 2 was Saldaña. So again, I do expect a forward pressure out of Saldaña. I do expect him to mix it up in this fight. I do have Luis Saldaña to get the win. But again, very, very close one. So let us know down below in the comment section who you have in this battle at 145 pounds. Both of us going with Phoenix's own Luis Saldaña, or at least the adopted son of Phoenix Saldaña, to get the win. And a big time card coming up, headlined by Curtis Blaydes, taking on Chris Daukaus. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.